how do people respond to that when you describe that they have a relationship with it? Is it news to them that that this is something that they can define? And you say, look, if you're treating this poorly, what kind of relationship do you expect out of it?
Yeah, it's a little sobering. I think conceptually, it's often new, and most people haven't thought about the relationship they have with their creativity. So it's usually a fresh thought for them. And then when we're first talking, I mean, we always start the conversation in a place of pain because the reason they're talking to me is something's not working, something's not feeling good. And it's a little bit uncomfortable to be honest with ourselves about what's not working and why it's not working. And it's just like, if you've ever been to marriage counseling or therapy or anything in those initial meetings, you're trying to diagnose where the friction is, where the mismatch is, where the challenge is. And sometimes when we get into this space of reflecting, it's very important to me to set up a very safe and comfortable container for people to do that exploration. I feel like we have to feel safe and well supported to actually get into any real reflection. So I don't think it's uncomfortable in the sense of, being a painful process, but I do think that it brings to the surface maybe some things about ourselves we haven't been paying attention to or haven't been looking at. And I think for most of the people I work with, the first half of that first conversation is a little bit crunchy. It's a little bit, we're only going to move forward if we know where we're starting from. And to actually speak those things out loud and talk through like what is hard can be challenging. The second half of that conversation, it's really interesting to watch the lightness start to come in. The sense that once someone gets that off their chest and actually names the struggle, I get to watch them sort of start to have a little more buoyancy and a little bit more relief. Like, oh, now that I know what the problem is, I feel like I can take a step to fix it. Now that I know like what mountain I'm climbing, I can pick a path and I can start climbing it. And there then becomes this agency around the sense of control and power a person has to actually change their story and change their experience. So the second half of that conversation is usually actually quite energizing once the clarity
And
comes in.
and when you coach somebody, what's generally the whole process like? Time. It sounds like the very first thing you do is you kind of have that wrestle with,
Yeah.
that uncomfortable acknowledgement and realization and identification of, where that pain's coming from or the relationship with that. And then the buoyancy and light
Yes.
comes afterwards. But then what's the rest of the process like? How long is somebody usually working with you?
Yes.
And
So zooming
what does
out,
that
yeah,
look like?
what is the whole top to bottom? There are 4 phases I like to bring people through. And the amount of time it takes to get through those phases sort of depends on the person and where they are with their experience. And there are different, if we're doing one-on-one coaching versus group coaching, like, timelines can look different, but the framework is always the same. So we start by understanding where they are, what their creative life looks like in terms of really the state of health of their creative practice and their creative experience, and understanding what is showing up for them in their life as an artist and where it comes from, like where they are, just triangulating like the you are here on a map. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is setting the vision. So releasing all of the things that feel hard right now, releasing all of the how is this going to happen, all of the logistics, all of the just letting go of all of that. I ask people to define what would their ideal creative experience be? Like if they could just experience anything as an artist, and importantly here, I'm talking about inner experience. I'm talking about how they feel in their practice, how it feels to make their work, how it feels to share their work, how they feel about the way their body of work is evolving over time, as opposed to external accolades like, well, I want to win this award and I want to have this many contracts and I want to have this many collectors. Like we peel away all that external stuff because what matters to me is the internal experience, the inward relationship with the creativity. That's what we have to get healthy first, because any wildly successful artist underneath of that is a thriving relationship with their creativity. So that's the foundation we have to start with. So phase two is getting clear on, in an ideal world, what does that relationship look like? Then phase three is, okay, how do we bridge that gap between where you want to go and that vision that you have and where you are right now on the ins and outs and ups and downs of your everyday life? How can we build in concrete, tangible routines and habits and practices and mindsets that help take you toward that experience you're seeking? And what always shocks people is how easy it is. Phase three is shorter than everybody thinks it will be, because when you get clear on what you want to experience as an artist, and then you think of some really practical, concrete ways to do that, like, it's actually amazingly easy to shift that experience toward more of what you want it to be. And we talk through pieces that are really tactical, practical, like how can we build in a creative practice into your schedule? Like, look at your calendar. How do we figure that out? Or what support systems do we need to recruit to be able to protect that time? What tools and equipment and materials and space? Sometimes I'm working with people who are really advanced and already have like their creative patterns worked out. Sometimes I'm working with people who just have had this lifelong dream to do this creative thing and they just have never done it. So then we're starting from scratch and we're building from the ground up to sort of bring them that whole infrastructure that they need to do it. But once we start moving that direction, it's not too long usually before people are starting to have that relationship with their work that they've been looking for. So then phase four, which is sometimes my favorite part, is building a roadmap for creative living past when our time is done. Because I really want the practices and mindsets and like this new reality that artists have built while we're working together. I want that to survive long past our time is complete. And so then we sit down and start to set goals for like way out on the horizon, like big things way out there. Where do you want your artistic life to take you over the next 5 years, 10 years? And then we start to build a roadmap for how you can stay rooted in that vision every step of the way while you walk that path. And how do you balance that with these other priorities, whether it's parenthood, whether it's you're a business owner or you have a day job, or whatever those other roles are, those other hats that you wear. How can we make sure that over time your hat as an artist, as a creator, continues to receive the right portion of your attention and your energy? And how can we make sure that it remains in balance with all the other important things that you're going to advance over that time as well?